Today, I paying our obeisances to His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. We are in our journey now, stepping into chapter 10, and which is again, part of Bhakti Yoga, the middle 6 chapters of Bhakti Yoga. And last week we had the summary for chapter 9. And today with chapter 10, it has 42 verses, a little bit, I think, longer than we have had the Bhakti Yoga section so far. And the title of the chapter is The Opulence of the Absolute. Now, this section, or this chapter rather, we have, for our convenience, we have divided into 4 parts. And today we'll be covering the first part. Yeah? So the flow of the chapter will be like in the first section, where Krishna highlights that he is, not knowable by everybody. And also that he is the source of all. Yeah. Now, this is what we are going to cover today. Now, this chapter is also, like last week, we were, I think Sri Guru Prabhu was saying that these 2 chapters, 9th and 10th, when you see the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, these 2 are the center points, right? And because 10th is also, more or less in the center, it is in the center. That's why we'll see that this chapter covers the most important piece of Bhagavad Gita, which is, you might have heard something called as Chatur Shloki Bhagavad Gita, right? Now, this verse 8 to 11 is that Chatur Shloki Bhagavad Gita. It is these 4 shlokas will give us the whole essence of Bhagavad Gita. Very beautiful, very nectarian shlokas, yeah, where Krishna has kind of sandwiched the whole thing into just 4 verses, yeah. So which we'll be covering in the next session. And then after hearing all of this, we see here finally Arjuna, the 3rd section covering where Arjuna's acceptance, of Krishna in that supreme position, after knowing all these absolute, the opulences, right? And then in the end, Krishna further expands into his vibhutis, which are other, also called as opulences. Further, most of this 19 to 42, this covers, Krishna explaining his vibhutis. Yeah. So further adding on the opulences, from him, like it covers, like that among the stars he's the moon. Among the demigods, he's Indra. So he's further gonna elaborate on his opulences. So that's the overall gist of this chapter. Now, before we step into this chapter, just quickly going through the 9th chapter, because 9th chapter, like we learned that it is titled as the most confidential knowledge, right? Where Krishna, came up with, quite a lot about how to know him, right? And he was in ecstasy, right? So the chapter began with Krishna giving us the first shloka itself, the kind of qualifications, right? That to realize Krishna, one has to be non-envious. That was the first shloka of 9th chapter. And then in the 3rd shloka, he mentioned about faith, right? The one who is faithful, that is a key qualification as well. And then in the 2nd shloka, he glorified, right? Rajavidya, Rajagurya, right? So glorification of that overall, right? So with with these, with the first three were very important verses, right? From fourth until shloka 6 or 7, 6, yeah. Krishna explained how he pervades into everything. He's in everything. At the same time, he's detached, right? He's independent. And we went through much in detail on those verses as well, right? How he's independent, right? Because and Krishna himself gives in 7th verse the example of sky and wind. How wind is, within the proximity of the sky, but the sky is independent, right? It is detached at the same time. And then we learned about, how this material world is created and then destroyed, the cycle of creation and destruction. And, and Krishna is the, one who does all this. Further to that, we went into the middle, those two verses, right? Where Krishna highlights verse 13 and 14, the key, where he puts, right, the middle of Bhagavad Gita, he puts Radharani in there, like, it is mentioned, right? So the 13th shloka was Mahatmanastu Mam Bhutata, yeah, Daivin Prakritam Ashrata. So all Mahatmas, the great devotees, are under the shelter of Daivin Prakritam. So Radharani, right, is Daivin energy. So, and then just followed by that verse, he mentioned that Satatam Kirtayantum. That was the other, cream nectarian verse of 9th chapter. Always Satatam Kirtayantum, always chant my deeds. Yeah. So Krishna highlighted that. So that these two are pure devotee verses, right, which are for pure devotees. And then he explained further in chapter that even after being so clear, then Arjuna comes up, right? That why didn't certain people, they have different ways, they are not single pointed. And then Krishna says there are three classes of jnanis, right? Ekatvena, Pratakvena, and Vishvarupa. Ekatvena is oneness, worshipping in oneness. Yeah, that concept of Aham Brahmasmi, right? I am myself God, right? So that we will cover in 12th chapter. Yeah. Then comes Pratakvena, where the worship is diversified, demigod worship. Yeah. And then he mentioned about Vishvarupa, his Vishwarupa, which is universal, right? Now, after that, he then mentions, that how the people who worship in 7th chapter, he mentioned, right, 4 classes of people worship it: Artho, Arthatho, Jnani, and Jignas, right? So, one who are distressed, one who are in need, and one who are inquisitive, and one who are Artho, Arthatho, Jnani, and Jnanis, knowledge. So, and then he says that after he explains about, those who worship demigod go to that planet, and those who worship me come to me, he says, right? And then the beautiful verse comes 9.22, right? Where he mentions that to my devotees, I protect what they have, and I provide what they lack, right? Very beautiful verse where we learned the example of the story of Arjuna Charya as well, right? So Krishna protects, he himself comes, and we'll learn in further in Bhakti Yoga section itself in one of the chapters how he confirms that he himself comes for his devotee. And we have seen that several times, like Gajendra Moksha, right? Krishna himself comes, right, to release, to liberate. And then in 9th chapter, with all this, then he also, I think the beautiful verse of Patram Pushpam also comes, 9.26. And Yad Karoshi, Yad Nyashi, that following verse, 9.27. So Krishna, only thing, he is happy with us offering him fruit, flower, as simple as that, but the main component, what he's looking for is, somebody say, what is the main component he's looking when we are offering something?
Love.
Love, yes.
Love, yeah. Heart, faith.
Yes, so love, that's the main thing. So anything we offer to our deities, to anything we offer to Krishna, we have to have that component of love. We should start building that, right? That is the key thing he's looking for. So, because he himself is fully opulent, what do we want from us? What can we really give? We are nothing, right? We may have, some people may have beauty, but they may not have the money. They may not have the fame, right? They may not have this knowledge. So one or the other component, we have our own permutation combination. Some opulence may be more in us, but the others are not. But Krishna is fully opulent, right? All six opulences are full in him. So what can we give him, right? He's just in need of love from us, nothing else. Just like as a mother or as a father, what would we want from our child? Just love and respect, right? That's it, nothing more. Because we kind of try our best to secure their future where possible, right? So the love component is clearly mentioned in 9th chapter. That's the most important knowledge we need to know. Yeah. And then he concludes, right, by saying, man mana bhava madbhakto, right? This verse is very important. And that's why 9th chapter verses are very important, very nectarian, because this 9.34 verse, man mana bhava madbhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, this is repeated twice. The only shloka in Bhagavad Gita which is repeated twice. Once in 9th chapter, which is the center of Gita, and then Krishna puts in the end in 18th chapter to remind us of it. Yeah. So it says clearly, what does he want? Man mana bhava. Like always, think of me. Yeah. And then madbhakto, be my devotee. Madhyaji. Yaji means worship. So worship me. Mam namaskuru. Namaskuru means pay obeisances. So do these 4 things. The person who does these 4 things, are sure, to come to. Yeah. So this is the key thing which he's asking us. In our day-to-day life, you will come, you will be, if we will definitely go back to Krishna, right? Now, when we want to do this, right? We learned in 9th chapter, and Krishna is in ecstasy, right? We saw how 9th chapter he started himself talking. He didn't wait for Arjuna any questions. So far we saw Arjuna asking questions. But 9th chapter, Krishna started himself, right? Because now with the verse of Man Mana Bhava, he is at ecstasy because he is into the devotee, flow, right? So he continues that in the 10th chapter. In the beginning, we see that, yeah? That anything, see, in 9th chapter we saw to do that to Krishna, right? Man Mana Bhava Madbhakti, to do that, we have to first identify the connection, right? What is our connection? In 9th chapter, we learned that we have a connection with God, right? Now, in this chapter, in 10th chapter, Krishna is going to tell us more. He's going to teach us how to identify that connection, which will how to identify that connection so that we are able to remember Krishna. We are able to follow 9.34. Yeah. So how can we identify that connection? Right? So in short, Krishna states that when we are looking at his opulences, Krishna is stating that whenever we see anything beautiful, anything attractive, anything which awes us, wow, anything amazing, we have to know everything is from him. Everything which brings those expressions, be it as beautiful as a lotus flower, a rose, anything you see around, a beautiful creation, of everything around. When we see something which always struck me, one of the examples is a seed, a small seed. It can turn up to a huge banyan tree. That in itself is such a beautiful creation. That just small seed, it can make small flowers. At the same time, it can germinate into a huge banyan tree, which in itself gives shelter to so many, right? So this is nothing but it will be foolish to say that it is just science. No, it's just creation. No, yes, it is creation, but anything created has a creator, right? And we have to recognize that. Okay, so Krishna's opulences in these chapters, it helps us to see how everything is connected to Krishna. How to identify that connection to Krishna? Yeah. In previous 7 chapter also we learned, right, that I'm the taste of water, all of those, right? So similarly, in here also from verse 19 to 42, we'll see more opulences of Krishna. You know? So with that said, with that background, we'll move on to the first verse today. We are going to cover only 7 verses today. So first is more wonderful knowledge. Yeah. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya Eva Mahabhavo Shrunu Me Paramam Vachaha Yatte Aham Priyamanaya Vakshyami Ditakamyaya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, listen again, O mighty Arjuna, because you are my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. So one level higher up again, right? So it is better than anything Krishna has spoken so far, Krishna is saying. And the first word here, right, bhuya. Bhuya means again.
Okay. Prithvi.
So bhuya means again, yeah. Krishna is saying again. He's saying, listen to me again. He's repeating it, yeah. Eva Mahabhaho. Mahabhaho is Arjuna, yeah. Shrunu. Can somebody remember Shrunu word? 7th chapter, 1st verse. What is Shrunu?
To hear.
Listening, yes. Hear, right? He's saying Shrunu me. Again, hear me, Arjuna. Yeah. Paramam Vacha. Paramam means top knowledge, top instruction, Vacha. Right? Now, see, 9, when I read this verse myself, the first thing what I got, when I was studying this was 9th chapter, we said that is the most confidential knowledge, right? It was the best. That is what we said, right? Then, thing is that, and now Krishna is saying, this is better than what I have said, right? So something comes up in mind, what is so much better in, right? Now, the thing is, in 9th chapter, Krishna told Arjuna what to do, right? What he should do. In 10th chapter, he will mention it, how to do. Unless and until we don't know how to do it, how can we apply that, right? So that is the important. That's why Krishna is terming it as better than that. There is both things are important, right? One thing is to know what to do. Once we know the target, how to do that, there should be a instruction on that. Otherwise, how will we know? Even if we know what to do, we cannot reach there, right? So that's the thing. For example, in 9th chapter, he stated, remember me always. Man mana bhava madhya, right? Remember me always. And in this chapter, he states how practically can we do that. Okay. Another example is Krishna states in 9th chapter, right? Love me. And this chapter will say how to love Krishna. So again and again, he is trying to give us more and more so that we can absorb with our tiny brain, right? What we have. Okay. And then again, one important thing he highlights in this verse again is Yatteham Priyamanaya. Why? He is again highlighting the qualification of Arjuna. Right? In 4th chapter, we learned, he highlighted the qualification. Bhakto sime sakha cheti. That's what he mentioned to Arjuna. Right? Like I'm telling you this because you are my friend and a devotee. Right? Here again, he's highlighting, you are my priya. Right? So, and again, he highlights in 18th chapter, Man mana bhava bhaktato. And again, that pratijane priyosime. Yeah. So, main message of this shloka, why is Krishna, there is one more word which Krishna uses here, that for your benefit, I shall speak to you. Why our benefit? Right? our benefit. He's telling Arjuna, of course, but through Arjuna, he's telling us, right? So what now, what is the benefit through Arjuna? We are understanding. See, he has clearly explained his different energies, before, yeah, to establish that devotion, right? He's again and again repeating the message. Why? Because when we hear again and again, our faith increases, our conviction becomes more firm, you know. And in this chapter specifically, he highlights the opulences. The chapter name in itself, right? He's highlighting the opulences. The more one hears about Supreme God, why is hearing so much highlighted again and again? Why? Because it benefits us. How? The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes fixed in our devotional service. Our firm, our faith, our just belief becomes firm faith. It grows into firm faith. And that faith will eventually let us to be surrender. Because there are two stages. One is to know Krishna is great. And the other stage is, how is he great? I had one of my friends, who.
Can you please repeat what is this too?
I was just saying that why is Krishna repeating the importance of hearing? Is because the more one hears about Krishna, the more we become fixed in our devotional service. Because our so-called belief, the more we keep hearing from authorized, sources, the more our belief will turn into firm faith. And that faith is needed before, we are able to surrender. Okay. And I was giving example of this, that I had one of my friend, and there was a very famous personality in Karnataka, in the government. And everybody knew he's a very, great personality, and, very famous, and, we had heard stories, right, about him. And these famous personalities, you see them in newspaper, you see them everywhere, right? So my friend was working, in his company. And of course, before joining the company, she knew that he was great, right? But as she started progressing in her work, right, she got to know more and more about that person. And that inspired her more and more. And when she saw his day-to-day struggles through the articles within the company, through meeting the person face to face, through to people who have been with that person when that growth curve was happening, the struggles he faced and the way he faced the challenges, that kind of belief turned, more into inspiration and that faith that I'm in the right hands, for growing into that particular curve in my career, right? Similarly, for any person, knowing him, how great, they are great is good. But unless and until we don't know how great they are, that kind of firm thing won't sit in our tiny brain, right? And same thing is here. That's why hearing is very important. I would strongly, request you all to hear at least 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes a day. And that's what our sadhana chart asks also, right? If we just do 30 minutes of hearing, and our chanting and our reading of 30 minutes, I think that in itself will see in ourselves how we are getting better in our devotional service, right? So that will enhance our devotions, right? And right, so Krishna is telling here to Arjuna that because Arjuna is very dear to him, he will benefit with the teachings of Krishna. Yeah, it is very important because in the same field, Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita from Krishna. On the other side, Dhritarashtra also heard Bhagavad Gita from Krishna. And we see how it was perceived in both ends. Right? The way Arjuna applied it, right? He was against to do the war, But then, even, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he surrendered to Krishna, right? He surrendered in the start and he followed what Krishna said. At the same time, even though Dhritarashtra heard it, but he was still lambent, right? So different. Yeah. So it is very important that why Krishna is saying that it is for your benefit, because Arjuna is very dear to him and Arjuna is a devotee. Yeah. So it will be taken, the right message. Yeah. So now the second verse, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, will you be able to read this?
Yeah, Mata. Krishna, the unknowable mysterious origin of everything. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of demigods and sages. Bhagavad Gita 10.2.
Thank you. So Krishna is saying neither the demigods nor great sages know his origin or opulences. Yeah. And he confirms, I am the source of demigods and sages. Right? Now, nobody knows him as he is the source. Yeah. See, in Brahma Samhita, we see that verse, right? Where Brahmaji confirms, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vid Anadiradir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. So in Bhagavatam, it is clearly the whole process is mentioned as how this whole creation, sub-creation happens. How Mahavishnu expands into Garbhodaka Vishnu. Each universe has a Garbhodaka Vishnu, and from Garbhodaka Vishnu's navel comes Brahmaji, and Brahmaji then does the secondary creation, So, and how, even Karanodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu is the, expansion which is present as super soul in each one of us. So, Brahmaji was created by Krishna, and there was nobody there before Krishna. That's what Brahmaji confirms in that Brahma Samhita shloka, right? So Brahmaji is coming out of Krishna. So even Brahmaji might not know everything. Let's take an example of a son and a father and son. Say a father has 5 sons, yeah, or 5 children, say, yeah, and the eldest child might know a bit more about father than the second child, right? And same series, the youngest might know less compared to the eldest, right? But even the eldest child might not know everything about the father, right? Because he's born much more later, right? So he might know more about father. Yeah, there are degrees within children, how much they know the father. But even the first one or any of the child might not know everything about the father. Whereas the father might know everything about the son, right? So only Krishna's devotees, they know him to certain extent. To certain extent, Krishna's devoting him. Because why devotees may know to certain extent? Because, and demigods and great sages are also, devotees, right? They are also devotees of Krishna. Right? So Krishna confirms that nobody knows him fully. But yes, but he is the source of everything. Demigods and sages also, because they don't know everything about Krishna, see how they get bewildered. We have heard about, we have that in later slide. Let me move on. Yeah. So this is the beautiful picture where, Krishna is eating food with all his sakhas, right? So no one can understand why the Supreme God comes to earth, right? And comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Yeah. So qualification of any number of PhDs, any number of coming out of IITs, IIMs, higher educational these things, it does not, necessarily result you to unknow Krishna, right? And we learned that, right? These higher qualifications have nothing to do with knowing Krishna, Krishna's sweetness, Krishna's opulence. No, it needs a devotee quality, right? And we know that story, right? From I think I mentioned this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was visiting South India. Yeah, he came across one of the Brahmin. He was entering a temple, and he saw a Brahmin sitting there on the steps, and he, he saw this Brahmin Bhagavad Gita, the top page opened, the top page, and he was crying profusely, and he could make, and people around were making fun of him, right? Why? Because he was an illiterate, but still trying to read, right, Bhagavad Gita. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, that what are you doing? He said that I'm just following my spiritual master's order. He asked me to try reading Bhagavad Gita, and I'm doing that. And because I'm illiterate, I cannot. And people are laughing that, look at this person, still. So he was following his spiritual master's orders. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, okay, that's fine, but why are you crying? Then he says that, every time I see this more and more, I feel so bad because looking, I feel that such a great personality of Godhead has become a charioteer, has taken that job for Arjuna. That is why I'm feeling, that kind of ecstasy he is at. That Krishna can be so merciful. He can even become a charioteer for, his devotees. And charioteer job is not, of course, even today, ask somebody to become a driver. Even my, son, he's a child, but if I tell him that it comes, no, I would rather become the owner of a showroom. Why driver? No, right? But look at this, supreme personality of Godhead. He has all opulence, and he has become a driver, right? And it's not a driver whom we can, who can honk, right? Arjuna, in olden days chariot, for him to move to right or left, how did they indicate it to the charioteer? They had to touch their leg to the charioteer to show them the direction which they had to move. So Krishna even took that up. So then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, saw this, he said that, you have reached, you have already reached that. You are definitely in there. So that's the beauty. He was not qualified. He was not having any opinions. All we need is again that factor of love, respect, right, for Krishna and the South Indian Brahman. It's a beautiful story. Okay, so further moving, when we say demigods also get bewildered, why they don't know him? Because they also get bewildered. At the end of the day, they are also under this material nature, right? So of course they are purer than us, but they're still under this, this prakriti, right? Now, this story, I don't know if anybody, I think you might know, Brahma Vimohan Leela, right? Where Brahmaji gets bewildered, right? So let's read this maybe first, and then I'll go in short about that story. So, Jyoti Mataji, can you read this?
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying his words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita 10.2 purport.
Thank you. So, we have this story in Bhagavatam where Brahmaji, when he sees that he gets to know that there is a boy in Vrindavan who has killed, Aghasura, one of the most dangerous demons, right? Then he thinks that it's someone bewildering. So he goes personally to see, and he sees how Krishna, along with his gopas, he's sitting there, and he's feeding them food, and he's eating food of theirs, and Brahmaji thinks, how can Supreme Personality of Godhead can do something like this? He's eating the food stuff of others from their plate, from them, and from their dirty hands. And he is also feeding everybody. That is not possible. That cannot be my Lord, he thinks. So, and then what he does is, that, okay, let me test this. So he takes all the gopas and, cows, and he hides them, in the, somewhere. And Krishna sees this, and Krishna understands that Brahmaji is this thing. So because Brahmaji is bewildered, Krishna tries to teach him a lesson, right? To remind him. So what Krishna does is when he went back from forest to Vrindavan, to home, of course, all the parents will be asking, where is my child? So Krishna expands himself into everything, into cows, into his gopas, he expands. And then, every day, 1 year passes, and Brahmaji comes back, and he could see all the gopas back with Krishna, and he's bewildered that how is this possible? Because I just took them, and he should be rather struggling here. But when he sees everything is seamless, everything is so fine, then he realizes that it is my Supreme Lord. And how he, later comes and he asks, that he realizes that I did not understand you, right? So even the demigods get bewildered, right? So in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand Supreme Personality. So that loving, and that's why, Brahmaji 10, in his prayers, it's an extensive chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam. So 10th canto, and where he, prays and wishes to Krishna, please let me take birth as the dust, of the feet of your devotees in this place, in this holy place of Vrindavan, right? So, and same thing happened with Indra. Indra got bewildered. He was proud, and the whole Govardhan Leela happened, right? So only devotees can understand Krishna to the best extent, as person, others just think that he is someone with a bit of extra powers, nothing more, right? So I'm not sure if this is clear enough, but Kavya Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation, out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet, despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand by the grace of Supreme Personality that He is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord, and out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand him. Bhagavad Gita 10.2. Hare Krishna. Mataji, you are on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Kavya Mataji. So we have taken this from the purport, and which clearly states, that only devotees can understand Krishna. That, and we have seen with all these examples, Bhagavatam is full of stories and examples of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. It's nectarian, right? And it is for us to learn and understand that Krishna can take the role of anybody for his devotees pleasure, right? Anybody. So that's the beauty, that's the sweetness, right? That's the sweetness of Krishna. it's two aspects, right? Greatness and sweetness. And that's what 9th and 10th chapter captures. It captures both the sweetness and the greatness. Greatness is the appeals of Krishna. Yeah. So with that said, like we have studied in 7th chapter as well, that with this shloka, where out of thousands of men, only one endeavors, to know Krishna. And out of that one, hardly some achieve the goal, and even after they achieve that, hardly among that pool knows Krishna in truth, that tattvataha, right? Krishna's tattvataha. Yeah. So we learned this with the example, if you remember, like the book distribution, right? From the pool you go, huge, because it's still December, still Gita distribution happening. I'm taking this example, that out of hundreds we approach, there are only few who then respond to your calls when you reach out. Out of, again, hundreds you have who responds to you on the call, only few, tens, come and attend the first class, right? Our Gita course. And out of those tens, maybe even hundreds, we hardly have few who survive until the middle of the course, after 3 or 4 sessions of the course. And you'll hardly find any few who goes until the end of the course, right? And so it is like, and that's why, we have to understand, if we have today, or each one of you, if we are at 10th chapter here and you're still, in there, you are really interested and you are doing all your sadhana, that shows that this is out of, you didn't even, maybe sometimes we underestimate, but even with this extent, it's out of thousands, 100,000s of people, that you might be few who really are into it, right? To learn it. So it takes a lot of our past karmas, your past spiritual endeavors, right? 2.4540, that we don't lose it in our next life. We pick it up from there, right? So it is, it is very rare, to even get that kind of course. Yeah. So this is the third shloka today. Ramaprabha Mataji, can you read this?
One who knows Krishna is freed from all sins. Bhagavad Gita 10.3. Yomam ajam anatimsha vetiloka maheshwaram ashammuda sha marteshu sharva papai pramuchyate. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, and as the supreme proprietor of all the worlds, he only undeluded among men, is freed from all sinful reactions in this world.
Thank you. So Krishna says here that he knows, again, tattvataha, right? He mentioned it. There are two things, person who knows Krishna as unborn and beginningless and supreme proprietor, that understanding itself, Krishna is saying, is so powerful that you'll be freed from all the sinful reactions in this world. Yeah. So those who are trying to elevate, that's what I was telling, right? Those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of spiritual realization, like all of us, they are not ordinary men. They are superior to millions and millions of ordinary men who have no knowledge about spiritual realization. Yeah. But out of those actually trying to understand that spiritual situation, one who can come to understanding that Krishna is the supreme personality of God, proprietor of everything, unborn, is the most successful in their spiritual realized person. Yeah. So in that stage only, one can fully understand Krishna's position, and then the person will be free from all sinful reactions. So Krishna is confirming that. Here, Krishna is saying he's unborn, right? So that's why we say Krishna's body is transcendental, right? It's not like we take birth and we undergo birth and death cycle. No, that's why you say it is appearing. Krishna appears and disappears. Just like the sun is there right now. Evening it is not there. That does not mean that it has died. It has disappeared. Sun is always there in the sky. Always, right? It's just our vision, right? So conditioned souls are the ones like us who are changing the world, but his body is transcendental. It does not undergo that change. Yeah. Now, I some people ask, Krishna is saying he's the proprietor, right here. He's the supreme proprietor. Now, we jivas, actually, we are here in this material world. Why? Because we wanted to control, right? We wanted to be independent. That's the reason why we are here. And we still, when we deep dive in ourselves, we still see that attitude in us, right? So that is the thing, that because of the false ego, I am the proprietor. And to be realistic, can we really control anything? Right now I'm coughing, right? Because I have cold and cough since last 2 weeks. And you are so helpless. You cannot even control your cough. Can you control even your nature's call? No. When we see all these examples, we realize we don't have anything under our control. So it's Krishna, it's like he's the supreme control and proprietor. That 5.29 verse, Bhukta Rami Advitas. Sarva Loka Maheshwara. Yeah. So he's the proprietor. And he's like an engine pulling the train. He does not have an engine connected to him to pull him. No. It's like, say train engine is there in the front, and then 3-4 bogies are there, right behind. Now, say 3 bogies are there. The last bogie is pulled by which bogie? By whom? So, by the bogie in the front, right? Now, the front bogie is pulled by whom? The first bogie. The first bogie is pulled by whom? The engine of the train. Is the engine pulled by anybody? No. Right? So it should not be difficult to understand that, why Krishna, he works on his own. There is nothing else pulling him. Right? Nothing else controlling him. He is the ultimate controller. He's like the engine. Right? We are the coaches. Right? So that's the thing. We are controlled. But Krishna is not controlled. We need to understand. Okay? So yeah, now this verse is 4th and 5th verse together. One of the important verses. So Reshma Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, sure. Can you read?
Yeah. Intelligence, Krishna is the origin of all qualities. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Bhagavad Gita 10.4 to 5. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. So Krishna now he's saying that after saying that he is the controller and proprietor, now he's gonna tell you, right, that he's also the origin of all the qualities. He also mentions the different qualities of a living entities. Be they good or bad, all are created by Krishna. They are described here, right? Something like we have learned forgiveness, freedom from delusion, truthfulness, controlling senses, controlling the mind, happiness, distress, fear, fearlessness, all this, right? These are all different qualities of a living entity. A devotee should try and develop these qualities. should try to understand, contemplate, and then cultivate these qualities. That will get cultivated if we keep contemplating, right? These qualities. These are combination of both good and bad, like fear and fearlessness, happy and distress. See, it's not. Yes, Krishna is the source of quite a lot of times this question comes up that Krishna is also the source of bad qualities, right? Now we have to understand it's like the concept of what is darkness. Can somebody say what is darkness?
Absence of light.
Yes, exactly.
Darkness is less number of knowledge.
Yes, but in general, I'm asking, what is darkness? It is like Reshma Mataji said, right? It's absence of light, right? So basically, there is no light. That's why it's dark. Similarly, absence of good qualities results into bad qualities, right? And similarly, absence of happiness results into sorrow. So both there are in a way, because there is an absence of good thing, the bad thing results. Okay, so see, when when we take the example of sun, right? Sun is the best example for us when we talk about light, right? Now when we are facing the sun, when we are towards the sun, we don't see any darkness. But if we turn our face against the sun, we see the shadow, right? Shadow appears when we face away from the sun, right? But when we face towards the sun, we cannot see the darkness or shadow. Similarly, when we face away from Krishna, the bad qualities appear, the fearfulness appears, the distress appears. But when we are facing towards Krishna, the good qualities come. So absence of facing to Krishna is resulting in bad qualities. Yeah. So absence of Krishna in life, basically, right? It results in fearfulness. It's same way, like Krishna was there, right, during Dwapara Yuga, during the war, all the time, right, with Arjuna. And he was also so much with Duryodhana, right? Arjuna was never in fear. Remember when Arjuna and Duryodhana both go to ask Krishna, right? Arjuna asks, Krishna says, I won't fight. I can either give my army on one side, or on the other side, I can give myself, right? Arjuna got the first choice to choose, and he chose Krishna, right? Why? He was never in fear. Why? Because Krishna was his side. But Duryodhana, even though he got the army, he got all the best players in his army, he got the best plan, still he was always in fear. Why? Because he was against Krishna. He had moved his face against Krishna, right? So bad qualities like anger, fear, distress, can also be because of the influence, that we are facing away from Krishna. And also because we are facing away from Krishna, we are under the influence of this material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? And because of this modes of nature, influence on us, we are getting these bad qualities. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, what have we learned, right? Under the modes of the nature, we are influenced by that, right? And only way to be not under the influence of modes of nature is surrender to Krishna. Maya dakshena prakriti. Krishna says. So, daivihi yasha gunamayi mam maya durutte. Krishna is saying, mameva ye prapadyante maya metantaranti. Prapadyante, if you surrender me, then you will not be under the. And then if you will not be under the influence of material modes, then you will not be having those bad qualities, right? So, Krishna states material nature does not impact devotees. They are under Daivim Prakritim Ashrita. They are under the care of Radharani devotees. That's what he said in 9th chapter. Okay, so with that, we are just going to highlight few of these qualities taken from purport. So, Hari Krishna Prabhuji, will you be able to read this?
Mataji, yes. Intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective, and knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. Ordinary knowledge obtained by a university education pertains only to matter, and it is not accepted here as knowledge. Knowledge means knowing the distinction between spirit and matter. Bhagavad Gita 10.4.4 to 5.
Again, this is taken from purport. Thank you. So yeah, so there is a difference, right? Knowledge and intelligence, right? Knowledge is we learned difference between spirit and matter. Yeah, intelligence is analyzing. We have to use our intelligence into this mode, yeah, to make it more purified, yeah, to analyze things in proper perspective, to prioritize, to rearrange, to harmonize, right? It requires intelligence, right? So next is Shama, yeah, forgiveness. Jyoti Mataji. Okay, we'll move maybe to Kavya Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Shama, tolerance and forgiveness should be practiced. One should be tolerant and excuse the minor offenses of others. Bhagavad Gita 10.4 to 5.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
This is one of the key qualities. First lesson which Krishna taught us in Bhagavad Gita. It is 2.14. Matras Parshastu Kaunteya. Yeah. He says tolerate. He tells Arjuna, this is the quality you have to learn. Tolerate. Yeah? And forgiveness, Krishna says. See, if somebody comes and behaves, say, Ramaprabha Mataji, somebody comes to you, steps up to you and behaves, really rude, right? Now, on the street, yeah, you don't know who this person is, and and then you come home and you are expecting guests, yeah, and your relatives to come in, and then you understand that this person is actually my relative's son. The thought process you had few minutes before, the forgiveness level you could have for that person versus once you know that this person is related, what do you feel? Which one would be easier to forgive?
Like the relatives, and that will be easy.
Right? It's natural tendency. So that's why I'm saying this is for us, we should try and cultivate. Each one of us, of course, we don't do things deliberately at times, but it's our nature, right? We are influenced by this material nature. So we have to try to forgive, and how can we better forgive when we see people that, oh, he's also Krishna is father of him also, her also, right? We are all children of Krishna. So if we have developed that mindset that, everybody is related to Krishna, and my goal is to please Krishna. Why are we chanting, hearing? Why are we doing all this? To please Krishna, right? So that forgiveness attitude comes a bit more naturally than it would when we see everybody as part and parcel of Krishna. So we have to try to cultivate, tolerate, and that level of tolerating, when it gets to certain, betterment, it will help us to forgive easily. Yeah. Yes, trust and truth. So yeah, Ramaprabha Mataji.
Satyam, Truthfulness means that facts should be presented as they are for the benefit of others. Facts should not be misrepresented. According to social convention, it is said that one can speak the truth only when it is palatable to others. But that is not truthfulness. The truth should be spoken in the straightforward way so that others will understand actually what the facts are. If a man is a thief and if people are warned that he is a thief, that is truth. Although sometimes the truth is unpalatable, one should not refrain from speaking it. Truthfulness demands that the facts be presented as they are for the benefit of others. That is the definition of truth.
Thank you. So nowadays we have this tendency, which I see a lot, that somebody is praising somebody to make them happy. Be it really within your heart, it's true or not, doesn't matter. It's all about flattering people. Talk something good about this person, then the result would be, something beneficial for us. So it's more, we refrain from telling truth on their face. And, from my experience, devotees, they are the best critic in our life because they say anything based on our ultimate spiritual benefit. Only it might really sound very harsh initially. It might be, you might taken back because you're used to having people who talk good about you, who don't want to make you realize your original self, your spiritual self. And it's only devotees, only they can help to bring qualities in us of tolerating, that spiritual intelligence, otherwise, it's not, otherwise this material world, people are always busy, smile, speak some nice words and done. Nobody would make you aware, show you that mirror. And that makes you feel that you are the lion, the king of the forest. Whereas actually, if somebody shows you the mirror, you will see that you are a cat. That's what happens. So there's a nice story which I was hearing the other day of a sage. One of the persons in town, he wants to be spiritually realized. He wants to grow in his spiritual life. So he comes to know about a sage in that town, and he approaches the sage. Yeah, the sage said, "Okay, you want to learn? Go. There is a pond nearby, lake nearby. Go there, have bath, wear fresh clothes, and come to me." So the sage hermitage in the ashram was on top. There were steps which were leading. Now this person, very excitingly, he took bath, he wore fresh clothes, he started climbing up the stairs. And there was a person who was doing jhadu there, cleaning, grooming. Yeah. And what happened was this person does that every day. So he's doing that every day, he's in his own world. And whole of the dust fell on this person, And this person got so frustrated and, that he pushed him and he did physical things with this person. And he walked up to the sage, and then the sage said, I saw what you did. And this person said, well, I'm really in my nature. Everybody tells me I tolerate so well. I'm very forgiving. But this person did so and so. I was coming with so. So he started explaining. So the sage said, okay, come after another year if you really are keen to learn. Now this person comes after 1 year. Same thing. Same person is doing jhadu. This person walks the stairs. And then again, the dust comes on him. This time, he did not abuse him physically. He abused him mentally. He said many things. And similarly, he again walked to the stage. The stage said, let's give it another more year. This person came back after a year. Now, this time, he took bath and he walked up. And then, because the whole year he keeps contemplating, what is actually going on. And this time he does the jhadu and, he says that he doesn't react anything when the dust falls off. And he walks to the stage. The sage said, I think you're almost there. Let's give it another year. Next year, when this person comes, he takes the whole bath, wears fresh clothes. He walks up there, this thing. And this time, he literally hugs and thanks the person who is doing jhadu, that it's you who made me understand, that tolerating, patience, forgiving, because I was kept in a world where I was booted up always, that this is best in you. Whereas once I started experiencing this whole thing, I realized how people were actually not showing me the true picture of myself, which could help me as a person. And then when he walked to the stage, the said, yes, now you are ready. Then he started. So it's devotees who can actually bring that in, all these qualities. Association is the key, so that's okay, fine. So yeah, truthfulness, the tolerance, forgiveness, yes, we can get that. We have to have the right association, devotee association, to realize that. Further, this is Shama. Yeah. Nee, this is some. So where did I stop? Reshma Mataji, did you read it?
Yes, Mataji, last time I
Right. Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji. Similarly, one should restrain the mind from unnecessary thoughts. That is called shama. One should not spend one's time pondering over earning money. That is a misuse of the thinking power.
Yeah. Very important, because money plays a key role, right? That 4 purusharthas we have: dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? Money is one of them, right? So yes, it is required for our living. It is, but we should not be obsessed with it. We should know how to prioritize in our life. Yeah. So a devotee will put all the necessary thoughts, while earning the money, while spending the money, it's not like materialistic people, the show off thing, and, the high desires, all of that. So yes, it is needed, but we should channelize it, right? We should not make it as our whole and soul of life, that will not help us, so. And like here, the one of the key things is the mind control, right? Mind is the thing which drives us. We have learned enough about mind, right? And the only way we can control it is through our thorough sadhana, consistent sadhana. Yeah, only that can help us to control the mind. Now, yeah, fear. So, Jyoti Mataji, are you around? Will you be able to read it?
Yes, Mataji. Fear is due to worrying about the future. A person in Krishna consciousness has no fear because by his activities he is sure to go back to the spiritual sky, back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, his future is very bright. Others, however, do not know what their future holds. They have no knowledge of what the next life holds. So they are therefore in constant anxiety. Abhyam, fearlessness, is possibly only for one in Krishna consciousness. Bhagavad Gita 10.45 purport. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes. So fear. We are always in fear, right? Materialistic people, will I get this salary? Will I get this promotion? We are always anxious. Will I get this property? And what will I be 5 years later? Let me plan it up. So it's like we are always anxious. We are always anxious, right? Whereas a devotee's anxiousness is because that is not the priority. It is a part and parcel of our daily, right? So their anxiousness is different. Oh, I haven't completed my rounds today, haven't read today. That's the anxiousness they have, right? Most of us, devotees in fear is mainly, we learned this because of the death, the final exam. Quite a lot of times people are fearful for that. But a devotee knows the whole thing around it. The devotee is in knowledge that death is inevitable, right? Everything is temporary. We have that. That makes us better prepared, you know. And that's why once we are in Krishna consciousness, we understand the whole knowledge, you know. We are much better when it comes to being fearlessness, you know, having that within us. Now, Prabhupada is a great example. His name was Abhay. Yeah. So name itself has had Abhay. Okay? So, and how he at that age, so fearless. Why? Because completely surrendered to Krishna. He was dependent on Krishna, okay? Completely. So, yeah, the kind of steps when we read his, you know, biography, the kind of steps, what he underwent, you know, it's amazing to see how fearless he was going into an unknown place. Today, if I come to an unknown place, say, you know, even Bangalore, I have come down from there, right? Even now, when I go there, I know few people, but still, you know, if I go to maybe some other place where I don't know anybody within India, you feel so fearful, right? And because that's the thing. But he went all the way to different continent out of the world, you know, whole piece. So, yeah, that shows how much confidence he had. Um, Okay, last two qualities, I think equanimity and ahimsa. So ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that full utilization of human body can be achieved. The human body is meant for spiritual realization. So any movement or any commission which do not further that end commit violence on the human body, that which further the future spiritual happiness of the people in general is called on. Now, Prabhupada has given very beautiful angle to look at non-violence altogether. It's not about Gandhiji's non-violence, right? We're not talking about that non. Prabhupada is saying, see, why is this body given to us? It's a gift, right? The main purpose of this body is to spiritual realization, to have that spiritual. And a person who is not utilizing this body for that ultimate goal purpose, what happens to this body? It undergoes again and again birth and death cycle, troubling this body again and again, you know, going into various species. So that is violence. So he's giving the angle of ahimsa, non-violence. You can do non-violence ideally to yourself only when you don't make your body undergo this birth and death cycle. He's trying to say not to misuse this body by doing materialistic activity, you know. And ahimsa is only when we use this body for spiritual purpose, not exploit this body for material things. That will be we doing violence on our own body, right? It is suicidal. That is violence, right? So this is what Prabhupada is beautifully, that angle, you know, he has put that in the purpose. Yeah, very nice way to. So, and then equanimity, yeah, samatha refers to freedom from attachment and aversion. To be very much attached or to be very much detached is not the best. We know that. Full tyaga or bhoga, two extremes. No, we have to have a balance. Yeah, this material world should be accepted without attachment or aversion. That which is favorable for prosecuting Krishna consciousness should be accepted. That which is unfavorable should be rejected. And this is samatha. Yeah. So have people around who can give you, you know, into. We learned that, right? Surrender, sharanagati. You know, anukulasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varja. Whatever is anukul for Krishna consciousness, you should do that. What is pratikul, you should avoid. You know? So that will help us to maintain that. Yeah? And then the quality of tushti, satisfaction, means that one should not be eager or gather more and more material goods by unnecessary activity. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by grace of Supreme Lord. Yeah? So that's satisfaction, that whatever Krishna has given, it's best for myself. You know, it's a future best plan, ultimate good plan for myself from Krishna. You know, be satisfied with it. Okay, and then in the end, from the purport, one who engages in devotional service of Supreme Lord develops all these good qualities as arranged by Supreme. Yeah. So this is the 6th verse where Krishna says, the 7 great sages, and before them the 4 great sages and the Manus, come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. So far Krishna explained that he's the source of all qualities. Now he's explaining he's the source of all great sages and overall, the whole progenitor. Right? Yeah. He's kind of giving us, the Brahma is the first one created by Krishna. Right? And then Brahma eventually. Yeah. So he is, Brahma is known as Pitamaha. But Krishna is known as Prapitamaha, the father of the grandfather. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the last shloka for today is this one: accepting Krishna's power leads to surrender. Yeah. Kavya Mataji, will you be able to read this?
Yes, Mata. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tatvatah so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samasya. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in the unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. Bhagavad Gita 10.7. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So he says, Etam vibhutim means these opulences. Vibhutim are opulences. Yeah. Mamayo vetti tatvatah. Again, the tatvatah comes. Yes. Krishna's, tattva, one who understands the tattva. Yeah. So vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshaya. Right. Convinced, no samshaya. There should be natra samshaya. Yeah. The person is fully convinced. Means there is no doubt. No doubt, convinced about what? That Krishna is the source of each and everything. When we look at this opulences, mystic power of Krishna, we have to be having full faith. That's what Krishna is saying. One who is actually convinced means there is no doubt that he is the source of everything. Yeah. Of whatever he explained, his opulences, that he's source of qualities, he's source of great sages, Manu, everything, then that person can easily engage in devotional service. Yeah. We always hear Krishna is great, right? Like I said, this chapters give us understanding and how great he is. What all has he originated? Yeah. So that will build our faith, on the overall process. And this last slide for today is taken from the purport. Ramaprabha Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji. The highest summit of spiritual perfection is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is firmly convinced of the different opulences of the Supreme Lord, he cannot engage in devotional service. Generally, people know that God is great, but they do not know in detail how God is great. Here are the details. If one knows factually how God is great, then naturally he becomes a surrendered soul and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita 10.7 perfect.
Thank you. So we have spoken this, right? Prabhupada has mentioned these chapters give us an idea that, how great Krishna is. Fine, Krishna is great, but how great he is, we need to know that. That will build our faith. And that's why these are the cream of the chapters, in Gita. Okay. With that, we conclude our session today.